All right. Well, we don't often get the opportunity, and I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to talk to the people who make the news. No, not and really, despite so-called being a newsmaker myself in a sort of a political position, the truth of the matter is that you're sort of the raw material. The people who craft the news, who are responsible for transforming that from its rude state into the refined product that you receive. Our news media, and whether they are electronic, digital, or traditional print and magazine, being the editor of one of those august institutions particularly is a responsibility, an awesome one. And most of those people, in actual fact, hide in the shadows, to be fair. You don't really get news editors taking a prominent role in public discourse. Their newspapers might, not them so much. Despite having such an incredible influence upon what you read, see, or hear. But I am delighted that the new-ish editor of the Otago Daily Times, with its moniker of being the most trusted newspaper in New Zealand, we'll talk about that a little bit later on, is joining us, Paul McIntyre. And welcome to the show, Paul, and thank you so much for the chat.
Oh, hi, Michael. Thanks for having me on. As you say, we like to normally hide in the shadows.
Yeah, well,
That's a bird.
It's nice to see that you're out of there because you are such prominent purveyors of information. Anyhow, good on you, and welcome to the show. Listen, mate, before I get into the issues I want to talk to you about, I can hear you're a POM. I'm told that you're an Arsenal soccer supporter, so that makes it slightly worse. How did you get to come into journalism and get to New Zealand?
Well, I've started in journalism back in a long time ago, back in the UK, for a local weekly paper that is unfortunately no longer around, as has happened. And then I did the usual thing. I met a Kiwi barmaid. And then I've been to Aussie the year before and decided to actually head. I thought, why not? Let's have a look to see what New Zealand has to offer. And so that's basically what happened. And when I first came out, I was working at the Christchurch Star when it was an evening paper. And then we got married, went back to the UK for 7 years, and then came back in '96. And I worked before coming back. I worked on the Daily Mail foreign desk. I did sort of Times reporting as well, and CNN, and then decided to come back in '96 and sort of basically landed at the Press, where I was for 14 years, sort of news editing and night editing and basically and then online, and then became editor in Nelson and did that for 5 years before the regional editors were kind of moved on in 2015, and I went over to Aussie for a few months, worked on the Daily Mail Australia over there, and decided I didn't like what was kind of being done there. You were basically asking reporters to rip off other papers and online websites to rewrite stories, and so ended up at RNZ for a year, and then I was out of journalism for 6 years actually, working at New Zealand King Salmon, dealing with local government issues, with local government, iwi, and central government, and I also fundraised for a new hospice for 2 years in Nelson because I was on the board. So very different experiences. And then this job sort of came up and I thought, when it's in your blood, kind of journalism, it's hard to get out of. And I love the sort of immediacy, and that's basically what encouraged me. In fact, my wife Michelle said, well, why wouldn't you do that job? And so I thought, Nelson to Dunedin was a challenge, weather-wise.
Sure is.
But so far, sort of loving it.
Yeah.
Loving it in terms of coming back to a paper that is actually has those rounds and covers them really well. I'm lucky to have the staff that I do, to be frank.
Yes, it's an old-fashioned newspaper in one sense, isn't it? It's a broadsheet newspaper.
Yeah, yeah.
And you do have a round. You've got your health, your local government rounds. You're a very strong regional newspaper, so you have to pick up a lot of stories from Central Otago, Queenstown, Southland as well. And you've obviously got reporters based there.
Yes, and it's and that's the value of that. And I think you touch upon the trust thing. I think that's where maybe people have gone away a bit from that, where we try to, as you would know, have opinion clearly marked and editorial pages. And you like to think of it and allow different kind of opinions in those pages. So you've got all sorts from all sides. And as I get from subscribers, they say, well, I don't agree with all the opinion, but it's great to see it because I like to read others. But that's a very mature approach as well in terms of people understanding that. But no, I'm lucky in that sense. And it is well thought of and being independent as well.
Well, that's just the next point I was going to say to you, because you're a family-owned business, aren't you, Allied Press?
Yeah, the Smiths. So they've been in it many years, and it's I think, and that's where you are part of that community. And I know you'll get onto that, but you do feel part of the community, and very much unlike that I've felt anywhere else, and that's been a huge bonus where people kind of, on the whole, respect what you do. Of course, they, disagree, which is great. That's what you want. And you get disagreements from both sides of the political fence. And that's when you sometimes say, well, you must be doing something right. We don't do everything right, of course. But it is being independent and being a voice for this kind of region, I think is... it's a huge. We don't take it lightly, obviously, but it's a bonus for sort of being here. And as we know, there's so many other areas and social media and other platforms where people can get their own sort of views. But I suppose we're traditional in that way. It was cool. We were described as conservative the other day. I wouldn't say that at all.
No, not at all. I think you're as left-wing as hell, but there you go.
Oh, well, see, I would disagree with that.
Hey, mate, certainly you are editorial.
I work from the Daily Mail. I know what,
But actually, on the editorials, we'll go to the trust first, because the trust is what we're talking about. It's on your masthead that you are the most trusted newspaper in New Zealand. This is based upon an AUT, or Auckland University of Technology, annual survey that analyses, and the thing I actually had you on about that, I think on the show about a year ago when that came out, and you put that out, because I was thinking, well, it's not a very high barrier, is it?
Well, no,
it's a bit like saying
honest,
I'm the most trusted politician.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. Don't go too far.
Oh, no, you're right down there.
I know. I was going to say some other profession, but I won't. But yeah, no, I get it. We in terms of that survey, it was a pretty sobering survey in terms of trust in the media has dropped hugely anyway across the board. So yes, you could say, well, at least we're the top of the pack in that sense. But again, we don't take that sort of lightly. But as I go back to my other point, what we try to do is where we clearly mark what's opinion and editorial, and throughout the rest of the paper is really around just covering the news.